I'm Jenna Walsh, 34 years old, and until a few days ago, I honestly believed my family had my back. You know that comforting feeling that no matter what goes wrong, your people will stand beside you? Yeah, that was my illusion, until it shattered in the cruelest way. Last week, my parents called out of the blue. Dad's voice was low, calm, almost careful, the way people sound when they're about to drop bad news. He said our family trip to Hawaii had to be canceled. Money was too tight, bills had stacked up, and they just couldn't make it work. Mom chimed in, backing him up, promising we'd reschedule when things got better. I believed them without a second thought. Why wouldn't I? They're my parents. I told them not to worry, that I understood. What they didn't know was how much this trip meant to me. I'd spent months piecing it together, booking flights, choosing hotel rooms at the Moana Surf Rider, balancing costs on my card so everyone could enjoy themselves. It wasn't just a vacation. It was supposed to be a way to rebuild our bond after a tough year. I wanted laughter again, closeness, the sense that family still meant something. 3 days later, that illusion cracked wide open. I was scrolling through Instagram when my sister Lauren's stories hit my screen like a lightning strike. There they were, Mom, Dad, and even Lauren's ridiculous dog wearing a tiny Hawaiian shirt, smiling by the Waikiki pool, drinks in hand, golden sunlight painting their faces. I froze, my stomach twisting into knots. Not a single word, not one message to me. They'd gone without me. Worse, they'd gone on my dime. I sat there staring at my phone, their grinning faces glowing back at me, and something inside me broke. The betrayal burned through me like fire. How could they do this? How could the people I'd trusted most leave me out like I was nothing more than a forgotten name on a receipt? I didn't cry and I didn't call them to scream. Not yet. Because what came next would make their betrayal look small. And when I finally decided to hit back, I wasn't going to miss. But before I tell you exactly how deep that knife went, or how I twisted it back, tell me where you're watching from and what time it is right now. Drop it in the comments below. I read every single one. And make sure you subscribe, because believe me, you'll want to see how this ends. A year ago, my life had already fallen apart once. I was sitting across from my husband, well, my ex-husband now, Matthew, in our cozy Portland apartment. Dinner dishes still warm on the table. He looked at me with flat, tired eyes and said the words that cracked my world. I can't do this anymore. No fight, no warning, just finality. He packed a bag, left his keys on the counter, and walked out. I didn't chase him. I just sat there staring at the half-eaten lasagna, wondering what I'd missed. We'd been married 5 years, shared late-night hikes, inside jokes, endless coding marathons for my software job. We'd built a rhythm, or at least I thought we had. Then suddenly silence. He was gone, and the quiet of that apartment screamed louder than any argument we'd ever had. For months, I replayed every memory trying to spot the crack that broke us. The only thing I got in return was a divorce packet in the mail and an ache that refused to fade. So when I planned that Hawaii trip, it wasn't about beaches or cocktails. It was about breathing again. About finding myself under the sun instead of under the weight of everything that had gone wrong. I'd always been the responsible one in the family. When Dad retired early and money got tight, I quietly covered their phone bills. When Lauren overspent her marketing bonuses and couldn't afford her car payment, I sent money without hesitation. I was good with numbers, organized, careful, dependable. So when I suggested a shared family account to manage our expenses, it felt like the perfect way to keep things simple and fair. When I pitched the idea of a family trip, everyone jumped in enthusiastically. Mom said it'd be just like old times. Dad promised to grill fish like he used to. And Lauren said she'd plan some fun stuff. I took care of everything: flights, hotel rooms, tours, even making sure the resort allowed dogs because of her spoiled little pup. I upgraded my parents' suite with my reward points, thinking they deserved something nice after years of struggle. I didn't think twice. I thought we were a team. Then came the phone call that flipped everything. "Jenna," Dad said, "we'll have to postpone the trip. Money's tight right now." His voice cracked just enough to sound real. Mom backed him up, her tone heavy with disappointment. I told them not to worry. Families have rough seasons, right? I shut my laptop and went back to work, trying to convince myself everything was fine. But 3 days later, something in me stirred. Call it instinct. I opened the shared account app, the one tied to my personal credit card, and my stomach dropped. There they were, charges stacked one after another like a trail of betrayal. A spa package booked under Lauren's name for $450. A private catamaran cruise, $3,700. A fancy dinner at Waikiki's top steakhouse, complete with a $90 tip. Then came beachfront yoga sessions, a luau show, even dog grooming for that ridiculous mutt. Every dollar I'd worked for was fueling their dream vacation while I sat in my apartment alone, believing their lie. My hands shook as I scrolled through the receipts. Lauren's name was everywhere. Her massages, her drinks, her adventures. And my parents were right there, letting it all happen. I didn't text. I didn't call. I didn't need to. The truth was written in numbers. They'd used me, cut me out, and smiled while doing it. Anger flooded me, sharp and steady. But I didn't lose control. Instead, I opened the app settings and froze the account. Every dollar they thought they had vanished in an instant. Then I logged into the travel site, canceled their hotel payments with a single click. A few moments later, an email pinged in. Payment declined. Please contact cardholder. I pictured them at the front desk. Keycards useless, the perfect vacation crumbling around them. And for the first time in a long time, I smiled. An hour later, my phone lit up, Dad's name flashing across the screen, followed by frantic texts in all caps. Jenna, why is everything declined? We can't pay for anything. We're stranded. They were living it up 3 days ago. Now panic. I didn't reply. Then came Mom's message, sharp and self-righteous. You're being so selfish, Jenna. We needed this break, and you're ruining everything. Selfish for stopping their party on my dime. I almost laughed at how twisted that was. Then Lauren texted, her tone dripping with entitlement. You're making us look like idiots, Jenna. Fix this now. Making them look like idiots. They'd played me for a fool, and now they were scrambling. I opened Venmo, typed in Dad's name, sent $1 single, and added a memo. Enjoy your paradise. I hit send and turned off my phone. The quiet felt right, but I wasn't done. They thought they could pin this on me. But what they did next showed just how far they'd go to keep their lie alive. The next morning, my phone was quiet, but the sting of their texts still burned. I'd frozen their access to my money and pulled the plug on their hotel payments, but I wasn't prepared for what came next. My cousin Monica pinged me on WhatsApp with a single line. You need to see this. Attached were screenshots from our family group chat, the one I'd muted months ago because Mom's endless recipe links and Dad's fishing photos were too much. I opened the images and my stomach twisted. There it was, a thread of messages painting me as the villain. Mom had written Jenna's struggling after her divorce, acting out because she's jealous of Lauren's happiness. Jealous of Lauren. The same sister who dracked up hundreds of dollars in spa treatments and cocktails on my card. Dad chimed in. She needs to get over herself. We just wanted a break. Even worse, my ex-husband Matthew was in the chat, adding, she's always been dramatic. Let her cool off. Matthew, who'd walked out on me a year ago, was no siding with them, knowing full well they'd lied to me. I scrolled further, my jaw tightening. Mom's next message hit harder. Jenna needs help. Linda says she's not thinking straight. Linda, that's what they called her in the chat, like she was some wise elder instead of the woman who just called me selfish for cutting off their free ride. Lauren jumped in with her own spin. She's just mad because I'm living my best life. Living her best life with my money while I sat home believing their budget, so story. The audacity made my blood boil. Monica's message followed the screenshots. I couldn't believe they'd say this. Jenna, I had to show you. I typed back a quick thanks and stared at the screen. They weren't just using me. They were spinning a story to make me look unhinged, like I was the problem, for standing up to their lies. I didn't cry or call them out. I'd learned from locking their wallet that action spoke louder than words. They'd been leaning on me for years, not just for the Hawaii trip, but for everything. Phone bills, car insurance, even random streaming subscriptions I'd forgotten about. I pulled up my bank's online portal and started digging. Sure enough, I found 2 joint accounts I'd set up ages ago when Dad's pension wasn't enough. One covered their cell phone plan, $80 a month for 3 lines, including Lauren's. The other was tied to their car insurance, $120 monthly, because Lauren kept missing her payments. I was done being their ATM. I logged into the phone carrier site, removed my card from the autopay, and transferred the account to Dad's name. Then I called the insurance company, canceled my authorization, and let them know the policyholder would need to update their payment method. By noon, both accounts were out of my name, and they'd have to figure out how to cover their own bills. My phone lit up again that afternoon. Lauren texted first, her words sharp. "You cut off our phones. Are you serious?" I didn't reply. Then Mom sent a voice message, her tone softer but still manipulative. "Jenna, we're worried about you. This isn't like you. Let's talk." Worried about me? They were worried about their free perks disappearing. I saved Monica's screenshots and sent her a quick message. "Keep me posted if they say anything else." I wasn't going to confront them yet. Not over text. Not when they could twist my words again. They thought they could paint me as the jealous, broken one. But I was seeing them for who they really were. Matthew's silence and all this cut deep, too. He'd known about their plans, sat in that chat, and said nothing to warn me. I wasn't just done with their lies. I was done carrying them. What I did next would make sure they felt the weight of their own choices. 2 days after those group chat messages burned into my mind, I couldn't stay silent. Their words calling me jealous, unstable, in need of help, kept replaying like a bad song. I'd frozen their travel wallet, cut off their phone and insurance payments. But that wasn't enough. I needed to face them, see their excuses crumble in person. I grabbed my keys, drove 20 minutes from the apartment to my parents' house in Portland, and parked in their familiar driveway. Mom had texted that morning, all sweet and casual, inviting me for a family dinner to catch up. I knew it was a trap to smooth things over, maybe beg for their accounts back. But I wasn't there to compromise. I was there to end this. I stepped into their dining room, the same one where we'd shared countless Sunday roasts. Mom was arranging plates, humming like nothing had happened. Dad was slicing a roast, his knife steady, but his eyes avoiding mine. Lauren lounged at the table, scrolling on her phone, barely glancing up. The air was heavy, but I held my ground. I set my bag down, took a seat, and waited until they were all settled. Mom tried to ease into small talk something about her book club, but I cut her off. "Let's talk about Hawaii," I said, my voice sharp and clear. Their movements froze. Lauren's phone dropped to her lap, and Dad's knife paused mid-cut. They knew this wasn't going to be a cozy catch-up. I didn't hold back. "You told me money was tight, that we couldn't afford the trip. I trusted you canceled my plans while you were living it up at the Moana Surfer, charging thousands to my card." I let the words hang, watching their faces. Then I find out you're spreading lies, telling everyone I'm falling apart, jealous of Lauren acting out because of my divorce. Mom's lips tightened, but she stayed quiet. "I saw the group chat," I said, staring her down. "You called me unstable, said I needed help. You used my money," lied Tommy Face, and then painted me as the villain. Lauren rolled her eyes, tossing her hair. "You're making a big deal out of nothing, Jenna. She said it was just a vacation. You didn't have to ruin it for us." I turned to her, my voice like steel. "Ruin it. You spent thousands of my dollars, spa treatments, boat tours, fancy dinners, while I sat home thinking we were all broke, and you call me dramatic." Dad tried to step in, his tone gruff. Jenna settled down. "We just needed some time away." I cut him off. "Time away with my money without even telling me. You didn't invite me because you knew I'd call out your lies." Mom finally spoke, her voice soft, but dripping with manipulation. "Jenna, we didn't ask you to come because you've been so fragile since your divorce. We thought you weren't ready for a trip." Fragile. Her words were a cheap shot, twisting my pain to justify their betrayal. I leaned forward, my hand steady on the table. "You don't get to decide what I'm ready for. You don't get to use my money. Lie to me and then tell everyone I'm the one who's broken." I looked at Dad, then Lauren, my voice unwavering. "You knew exactly what you were doing, and you didn't care who you hurt." I stood up, pushing my chair back. "I'm done carrying you. No more phone bills, no more insurance, no more covering for Lauren's reckless spending. I'm done." Mom reached out, her voice pleading. "Jenna, don't do this. We're family." I shook my head. Family doesn't betray like this. Family doesn't steal from each other. I grabbed my bag and walked out, their silence echoing behind me. They thought they could guilt me into staying. But what I found out next showed me their betrayal went far deeper than I'd imagined. A week after I stormed out of that family dinner, leaving their excuses hanging in there, my phone lit up with a text from my cousin Monica. I hadn't heard from Mom, Dad, or Lauren since I'd called them out, and I had no plans to reach out. Monica's message was short, but chilling. "Jenna, it's worse than you think. Call me now." My stomach dropped. I dialed her number, and her voice was tense, like she was scared to say it. "They used your name," she said. Not just for the trip, but for loans to bankroll Lauren's spending. Loans. I'd ignored some credit alerts, thinking they were junk mail, but now my heart raced. Monica said she'd heard Mom and Lauren laughing about how they'd paid for Lauren's new wardrobe and parties using my credit. I needed to see the damage for myself. I sat at my desk, opened my laptop, and pulled up my bank's online portal. My hands shook as I accessed my credit report. The screen loaded, and there it was. 3 unauthorized loans in my name, staring back like a betrayal carved in stone. The first taken out 8 months ago was for $12,000 linked to an account I didn't know. The second 4 months old was for $18,000 with Lauren's email tied to the application. The third, a gut-wrenching $30,000 listed Mom as a cosigner. My credit score, which I'd worked years to keep spotless, was crumbling. I clicked through bank statements and saw the truth payments to high-end boutiques charges for $3,000 at a jewelry store, even a $600 tab for a rooftop party Lauren had thrown. My money wasn't just funding a vacation. It was propping up her entire lifestyle. My anger was ice-cold, sharp, and focused. This wasn't just about a trip or rumors they'd stolen my identity to keep Lauren in designer clothes and VIP booths. I thought of Mom's fake concern at dinner, Dad's gruff deflections, Lauren's smug eye rolls. It all clicked. They didn't just want my money for Hawaii. They wanted me as their personal ATM. I opened my email and started a report for the bank's fraud department. I attached screenshots of the loans, the unfamiliar account details, and a statement explaining Monica's tip about their scheme. Then I called the bank's fraud hotline, my voice steady, as I demanded they freeze every account tied to my name. The agent confirmed they'd lock it all down and launch an investigation, but I knew that wasn't enough to stop them. I reached out to a lawyer I'd trusted during my divorce, someone who knew how to navigate family messes. I sent her everything: the credit report, the loan details, Monica's texts, and asked her to draft a legal letter to the bank and local authorities demanding a full probe into the identity theft. The letter, which I reviewed that night, was airtight. Jenna Walsh has discovered unauthorized loans in her name linked to Linda Carter and Lauren Carter without their consent. I added a request to close all accounts tied to my identity immediately. Sending that letter felt like cutting a chain I hadn't known was there. They'd used my name like it was theirs to spend, but I was taking it back piece by piece. Monica texted again later, her words heavy with guilt. "I should have told you sooner," she wrote. "Lauren was showing off a new bag, saying it was free because of your credit." I thanked her for speaking up and asked her to save any proof she could. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about their greed, their willingness to throw me under for Lauren's flashy life. I leaned back, staring at my laptop, knowing the bank's investigation would unravel more than they expected. They'd thought they could keep me in the dark. But what came next would expose their lies to the core, and I was ready to let the truth hit them hard. Months after I sent that legal letter, my phone stayed silent. No calls, no texts from Mom, Dad, or Lauren. The quiet was a relief, but it also confirmed what I'd suspected. They'd only reached out when they needed something from me. My cousin Monica was the only one who kept in touch. And last week, she sent a message that painted a grim picture. "They're struggling," she wrote. "Lauren's drowning in debt, and your parents can't cover their bills anymore." Apparently, without my money propping them up, their financial house of cards was collapsing. Lauren had maxed out her credit cards, trying to keep up her lavish lifestyle. New shoes, brunches, weekend trips, and now collection agencies were calling. Mom and Dad were behind on their mortgage, scrambling to make ends meet without my support. I felt a flicker of pity, but it faded fast. They'd made their choices, lying about the Hawaii trip, spreading rumors about me, even stealing my identity to fund Lauren's spending sprees. Monica said Lauren was dodging creditors, her social media now filled with vague posts about hard times instead of designer bags. Dad had taken a part-time job at a hardware store, and Mom was selling old furniture online to scrape by. Then a letter arrived in my mailbox, handwritten from Linda Carter. It was the first I'd heard from Mom since our confrontation. "Jenna, we're sorry," it read. "We didn't mean to hurt you. We were just trying to keep the family together." She mentioned their struggles, hinting they could use help $1,000 to cover a late mortgage payment. The words were soft, but I saw through them. It wasn't an apology. It was another plea for cash. I didn't reply. I tossed the letter in the trash and sat with the truth. My family had never seen me as more than a tool, a bank account to tap whenever they needed. Everywhere family speech was a leash to keep me tethered to their needs. I'd spent years believing I owed them my time, my money, my loyalty, because that's what family does. But family doesn't lie, steal, or tear you down to lift themselves up. That realization was heavy, but it was also freeing. I wasn't their safety net anymore, and I wasn't going to feel guilty for it. Instead, I decided to take a final step to reclaim myself. I filed paperwork to change my last name to Parker, my grandmother's maiden name, a name untainted by their betrayal. The process was simple, just a few forms and a court date. But when I walked out with Jenna Parker on my driver's license, I felt lighter than I had in years. I was no longer tied to the Carter name, to their lies or their debts. I started building a new life, one where I set boundaries and chose who deserved my trust. Monica was still in my corner, the only one who'd been honest when it mattered. I got a new job, moved to a smaller apartment closer to downtown Portland, and started saving for my own trip, one I'd plan on my terms. I wasn't running from my past. I was stepping into a future where I came first. Looking back, the hardest lesson wasn't their betrayal. It was learning that family doesn't mean you let people walk all over you. Setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's survival. I wish I'd seen it sooner, but I'm stronger for it now. To everyone who stuck with this story until the end, thank you for listening. Your support means the world. If this hit home for you, drop a comment below. Have you ever had to cut ties to protect yourself? Hit that subscribe button for more stories like this, and let's keep the conversation going. You're not alone in navigating tough choices.